So we'd just like to welcome everyone to this evening of a music meditation devoted to the composer Beethoven. So we're going to be hearing different compositions by Beethoven, and our group, our Choreocosmos group, I'll say more about Choreocosmos in a moment, we've been practicing to some of the music from these Beethoven compositions movement. And this Choreocosmos means cosmic and sacred dance. We're going to begin with dancing to a piano transcription of Beethoven's famous Egmont Overture, written in the key of F minor, which corresponds to the constellation of Sagittarius. And right now, astronomically, I should just mention I did my PhD thesis on history of the zodiac, and right now the sun is in the constellation of Sagittarius. We can say that with 100% certainty. And so with our cosmic dances, we celebrate not only where the sun is and the moon, but also the planets, in particular the 5 classical planets. So with the sun and the moon, that's 7 combinations moving through the 12 constellations of the zodiac, and that gives a cycle of 84 cosmic dances. So Sun in Sagittarius is one of these 84 cosmic dances, each of which has its own music. And the pianist I worked with for about 15 or 16 years actually in California, she's also a composer, Marcia Bouchard, recorded these 84 Choreocosmos dances on a set of 4 CDs called Harmonies of the Starry Spheres, as published through the Sophia Foundation. And this is what we will be hearing with the first piece is Marcia's recording of a piano transcription of Beethoven's Egmont Overture, which of course was written for orchestra. But in this case we have a piano transcription. And Beethoven himself spoke of this music. He wrote it for the play entitled Egmont, composed or written by Goethe, and he was very inspired in writing this music. And when he sent it to Goethe, he said, "It's my great pleasure to send you now this glorious music." In German, diese herrliche Musik. So Beethoven loved this music, and it's not surprising actually, because Beethoven himself was born when the sun was in Sagittarius. And actually quite near the beginning of Sagittarius, 2 degrees of Sagittarius, or 3 degrees Sagittarius, where from our perspective, from our solar system, it is in that direction where the galactic center is. And if you study the structure of our galaxy, you can see that all the stars, which are suns, our sun is our local star, all the stars have been born out of this great center, the galactic center, which on this account is referred to or called in the tradition is referred to as the central sun. It is thought to be something like 500 million times more powerful than our sun. And this central sun holds all the stars, that is an estimated 200 billion stars, in their orbits around it, including our sun, which orbits once around the galactic center in 227 million years approximately. So our sun has been around, it is estimated, approximately 20 times around the galactic center. And so by way of analogy, when a person is born, then the sun is aligned at their birth with a certain star. We can call that the person's birth star. And then after 1 year, the sun returns to the same star. We actually have, one of our group has his birthday today, Richard. And so the sun is back there in this region of the zodiac in Sagittarius where it was at his birth. So the interesting thing is, I found this wonderful quote, or there's several quotes from Beethoven about music. He was already composing from a very early age, and he spoke of his divine music. It was just pouring through him the whole time, and his biggest regret was that he didn't have enough time to write it all down. And so this is one of his sayings: there is no loftier mission than to approach the Godhead, and by means of that contact to spread the rays of the Godhead throughout humanity. So he saw that was what he was doing with his music. And it's right there in his horoscope, what we could think of as the source from which all the stars, everything has been born in our galaxy. The sun at Beethoven's birth was aligned with this galactic center, the central sun, and it was from here where Beethoven was receiving his inspiration. Now, of course, one could say, why doesn't everyone who is born at that time of the year, in our time that is usually the 18th or 19th of December, at the time of Beethoven it was the 16th of December, which was his birth date, and the answer is that Beethoven was born with a very special organism, nervous system, which allowed him to tune in to these cosmic harmonies. What in the ancient tradition is referred to as the harmonies of the spheres. First recorded reference we hear to that is with the Greek philosopher and spiritual teacher Pythagoras, who it was said of him that he could hear the harmonies of the spheres. Pythagoras referred to himself as a student of Orpheus, who is looked upon as the real founder of the music tradition in the Western world. And Pythagoras was the one who then worked out basic rules of harmony. And then this was developed later in the course of time. I won't go into great detail now because it's a very complex theme, but one time when Beethoven was on one of his walks, he loved to get inspiration from nature for his compositions. And one time on one of his walks, he was with a friend passing by a beautiful place, and Beethoven said, passing by this place, and the friend then wrote this down from memory afterwards. So Beethoven said, I often sit here for hours on end, and my senses feast on the sight of the offspring of nature receiving and proliferating. Here there is no roof made by human hand, hiding the majestic sun from me. The blue sky is my sublime roof. In the evening, when I contemplate in awe and wonder, beholding the host of vibrant points of light named suns or stars, visible within heaven's boundaries, then my spirit soars beyond the distant stars to the ultimate source from which everything created streams and from which eternally new creations will stream forth. So in these words we find that which is expressed in Beethoven's horoscope, this alignment with the ultimate source within our galaxy, the galactic center, and others have spoken of this. We find the reference in Dante's great composition, The Divine Comedy, who had a vision of this great center around which all the suns and stars revolve. And Dante said, it is love that moves the sun and the stars. So divine love is the real power that moves through creation and which emanates from this great center. And so Beethoven was attuned to that and saw it as his mission to, through his music, to bring this power of the divinity, of the Godhead, as he refers to, we could say the power of divine love, to bring this to expression in his music. So we find in Beethoven's music an extraordinary mystical quality, and I hope you'll be able to hear this evening. Of course, it's not so easy listening to recordings, but we can try and hear through the recording to what Beethoven was experiencing when he wrote these compositions. This is another quote from Beethoven. Music is a higher revelation than all wisdom and philosophy. It is the wine of a new procreation. And I am Bacchus, who presses out this glorious wine for human beings and makes them drunk with the Spirit. So, this mystical quality present in Beethoven's compositions comes from his experience from an early age when he spoke of his divine music. And so Leonard Bernstein spoke of Beethoven as the greatest composer of all time, and I imagine the reason he spoke of that because when you look at Beethoven's entire work of composition, it covers an extraordinary spectrum, and each composition is a wholeness unto itself, and all the parts are integrated into the whole. It is an extraordinary accomplishment that he has achieved in his compositions. And never in the entire history of music has there been a composer who composed with such strength and power and certainty that flows into his music. And probably what most of you don't know is that in the United States of America, where everything is possible, there is a church of Beethoven. That this was founded so that people go there to listen to Beethoven's music. Music, Ludwig van Beethoven said, is the mediator between the spiritual and the sensual life. And so there is, I think in Alabama, where this church was founded, but now at the present time in Durham, North Carolina, there is a branch of this Church of Beethoven. And I think Gail and Richard, you'll be going there right to in next year. I mean later this year, sorry, to give a workshop, and so maybe you'll be able to pay a visit to the Church of Beethoven. So I think that is obviously just a little introduction. There'll be much more to say. There is this booklet, Dances of the Starry Spheres, an introduction to Choreocosmos, created by Robert Powell. And this is the booklet that accompanies this set of the CDs, Harmonies of the Starry Spheres. And there are also 2 books on Choreocosmos written by my wife, Laquana, or Lucky, as she's also known, and myself. These books are available, and one of them is called Cosmic Dances of the Zodiac, and the other Cosmic Dances of the Planets. And they describe these cosmic dances and also give a great deal of knowledge regarding these cosmic elements. Now, just to give something of a background, our language, every single word is comprised of consonants and vowel sounds. So if we go back into ancient times, we find the birth of language and the creative power of sound. So in the Hindu tradition, for example, Aum or Om is spoken of as the creative sound of existence. And if we take the Ao, that actually is incorporating the power of the sun. Every vowel sound corresponds to a planet. Ao corresponds to the sun. And M, the sound M, so we have Aum, M corresponds to the constellation of Aquarius. So when we're doing these cosmic dances, we are working with the creative sources of language. So we'll be doing this cosmic dance of the sun in Sagittarius. So there'll be 2 circles. There'll be an inner circle dancing the sun, and they will be doing this gesture, which is the gesture of the sun. It is the rays of the sun streaming out from the heart through the arms and the hands as a blessing to the world. And that will be interspersed with this gesture, which is the sound Ao, or one way of expressing the sound Ao. And so the Ao sound is then streaming out through the sun gesture. This is like the rays of the sun. And you'll notice then in the outer circle, who will be dancing the constellation of Sagittarius, you'll be seeing this gesture, which in cosmic dance is the sound G. So we have in the primal language, the G and the Ao radiating together. Gao doesn't really mean anything in English language, but in German, for example, it means explosion. So every configuration, as the planets are moving through the constellations of the zodiac, is speaking to us. And this is what we are aligning ourselves with when we do these cosmic dances. And this is a modern way of expressing the alignment between heaven and earth. Many of you will know that in Northern America, there are the Native American Indians who do, for example, sun dance or rain dance, moon dance, and so on. And that is continuing an ancient tradition. And they believe that doing these dances is a way of keeping heaven and earth aligned together. And that is also what our experience is doing these cosmic dances. That through we dance specific choreocosmic or choreographic forms. For example, you'll notice for the sun, the movement is a figure 8, which is progressing in the circle, and that is actually the form that the sun is doing as it moves around the central sun. So in the form we're moving, we're connecting with the power of the sun, in this case. And with Sagittarius, if you look closely, we are doing the form which is relating to what the archer is doing, which is aiming his arrow. So this gesture, you'll see this gesture of the archer, and you'll see the sound G. So, of course, there'll be much more to say about this. I can't really go into detail, but this is just by way of introduction. And then, after we've done this introductory dance, we'll be seated and I'll give a brief introduction to the next part of the evening, which is the main part of the evening. What we're going to do now with the sun in Sagittarius as a cosmic dance is aligning with where the sun is right now. We're honouring Richard's birthday, but not only that, in my research, you can read in my book, Chronicle of the Living Christ, there I was able to determine with 100% certainty that the sun at the birth of Jesus of Nazareth was right in the middle of the constellation of Sagittarius. So Jesus of Nazareth was living this archetype of, we think of the centaur, we think in Greek mythology of Chiron, who was a teacher and a healer. And we see this in the life of Jesus of Nazareth. Everywhere he went, he was teaching and healing. So he was living this archetype of sun in Sagittarius. So I think that suffices now for introduction to this first piece. We're going to be doing the cosmic dance, Sun in Sagittarius.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So that was just by way of introduction. Now we come to our main meditation for this evening. We could say this is what you've just witnessed, a meditation in movement. Really this experience of connecting heaven and earth. And it's quite an amazing thing. And through the music is born from the cosmic realms. It is an expression of the harmonies of the spheres with the great composers like Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, Schubert, and so on. And the structure of the classical tonal system, 12 major and 12 minor keys, these correspond to the 12 signs of the zodiac. So when I was looking for the appropriate pieces of music for our cosmic dances, for example, with this one, I was looking for music composed in the key of A flat major or F minor, both of which, that's the major and minor keys corresponding to Sagittarius, and a music that was expressing the quality of the sun. And then I found it with the Egmont Overture, this glorious, radiant music in the right key corresponding to Sagittarius. And so actually it was a work of over a period of 2 years finding this cycle of 84 cosmic dances. But having found them, now we, those who learn this, we are able to dance any configuration. So we could dance somebody's birth horoscope. We have done workshops, for example, dancing the horoscope. It would take a whole week, generally speaking, the horoscopes of famous spiritual teachers in history, for example. So, or we could dance the cosmic configuration of right now. The sun is in Sagittarius, the moon just moved into Aquarius, Mercury is also in Sagittarius, Venus in Scorpio, Jupiter in Scorpio, Mars is in Pisces, and Saturn is also in Sagittarius. So we could, if we knew the dances, the cosmic dances, we could express the actual totality of the present configuration. And we've done this on many occasions at different workshops. I've taught this in different places around USA, in Canada, in Italy, Germany, Scandinavia, England, and all the way to Australia. And people love actually moving to this great music, because when you enter into it, you enter into it in a very deep way, on a very deep level. You're engaged with your whole being, your will, and your gestures, and you feel the power of this incredible music, which is coming from the harmonies of the spheres, coming from the heavenly realms. And so your soul is lifted towards the heavens, towards these heavenly realms, when you're doing these cosmic dances. Now, the cosmic dances, that is one aspect of what we're working with in the Choreocosmos school. The other is sacred dance, that is moving, bringing to expression through movement, prayer and meditation. And this is what we're coming to now for the main part of our evening. We're going to be working with a great meditation that is known as the foundation stone of love. And you will hear the words of this meditation spoken, but we will include music. Now, Lucky and I, and also Robert, we worked with this intensively last summer in Assisi, Italy, and also in a place in northern Italy called Roncegno, beautiful place in the Dolomite Mountains. And there we were fortunate to have a violinist, a wonderful violinist originally from Moldavia, who's been living in Italy now for about 20 years, and his good friend Fabio Berolini, who is a conductor and an incredible pianist, who was able to play. They were able to play together this incredible music that we're going to hear this evening. But of course, when we come to the Beethoven violin concerto, this is written for lead violin and for orchestra. So the pianist Fabio played a piano transcription of the orchestra, and Vitale, the violinist, played the lead violin. So that was how we worked with it, because I always have worked with live music, piano or violin or both together. And so this is a new experience for me now, working with recorded music. And this will be a whole discussion about moving to recorded music. It's a quite different experience, but so it is anyway, because I was asked to do this. This is what we are doing and working with here. And obviously, you know, it's you have to adjust and adapt to the situations in life in which you find yourself. So I'm very grateful to Marcia, you know, I worked with for all these years, and she really put her heart and soul into recording these 84 pieces. So, you know, like the one we just heard is one of this cycle of 84. And so moving to it, you know, I experienced Marcia at the piano, and she's very Californian, joyous spirit, incredible pianist. And so that is what I experience and hear. And it's not just any old recorded music, you know, it is that I have a living connection with the music. And similarly, when we hear the music this evening, it's recorded music we'll be hearing, but I have the memory from this intensive work last summer in Italy with Fabio, the pianist, and Vitale, the violinist, playing this music. And so I have a living connection with the music, and it's powerful. People were moved to tears as we were working with this music. I won't go into great detail other than to say that this foundation stone of love is really about the future, that we have to learn to connect more and more with this divine love that is streaming towards us the whole time from the starry heavens, from this great heart, the divine heart, or the galactic center, the central sun, however we like to call it. When we move to Beethoven's music, we are attuning to this great divine heart from which divine love is pouring forth. And I hope you'll be able to experience this in the music that we'll be hearing this evening. So the foundation stone of love has 4 verses, and it was given at a special moment in time on Christmas Day in the year 1923 through a great spiritual teacher in Europe who was born in Austria and taught, however, all over Europe, Rudolf Steiner, and some of you will know of him through the Steiner schools, Waldorf schools that teach really a child-centered form of education. But it's not just the education. Steiner was a universal genius who was able to bring spiritual impulses into practical expression. So education is what he's most known for, but also special form of medicine. He was one of the first in the 20th century to work with homeopathy and expanding upon homeopathy. He developed an extraordinary range of therapies, and he was the pioneer of this form of movement that we're working with. He's the one who brought the connection of the gestures with the planets and the signs of the zodiac and language. He was really a universal genius. He also he was a pioneer of organic farming, which he called biodynamic farming, where he also brings in the connection with the starry heavens. And Jim and Cheryl are biodynamic farmers who've just moved here to Hacienda San Joaquin, live just down the road. And so we're very happy to have experts in biodynamic farming now living here in Hacienda San Joaquin. And there are many other achievements of Rudolf Steiner, whose life mission was to build a bridge between science and spirituality. So he called his teaching spiritual science, and then on Christmas Day 1923 he gave this great meditation, which he said he had received directly from Christ, that it was Christ who spoke these words through him, so that we can hold in consciousness when we hear these words, and these words are for the future, are to attune us to the love, which was the mission of Christ to bring to the world, and to elevate our entire being. So we hear in these 4 verses, the first verse directed to the level of the will. When you hear these words, you can hear these words over and over again. This is about elevating the will to a new level of creativity. The second verse, we'll hear the words directed to the human heart, and this is about elevating our capacity for love so that we can expand our heart awareness to come into connection with the entire universe around us. And then the third verse is directed to our thinking capacity, and this is about how to bring our thinking into connection with what is known as the angelic realm, and the angels and higher beings, archangels and so on. We will hear these are called upon in this meditation. And also in this meditation are addressed the elemental beings, or they're called in the meditation the spirits of the elements, who are the creative forces in nature. So we could say that what Christ is teaching us through this meditation is that now we have to not only attune to love, but we have to learn to connect with Mother Nature in a new way, and to connect with the angelic realms. And then finally, in the 4th verse, it is more like a prayer. The music we'll be hearing for the 4th verse is like a prayer. And with this music, we can enter into the quality of this 4th verse, which is addressed to the human spirit or the human I. When we say I am, we bring to expression our spirit essence, and that our spirit essence can connect with Christ, connect with his light of consciousness in our minds, with his love in our hearts, and with his power of goodness in the will. So that we hear in the 4th verse. So, of course, there'll be much more to say about this, but what we are going to experience then, the first music from Beethoven is from the first movement of the Kreutzer Sonata. We'll hear this incredible quality of will pouring through this music, and that is the music we're going to meditate upon. We'll hear this first movement of the Kreutzer Sonata as a kind of introduction to the first verse of the Foundation Stone meditation, which is about the will. And then when we've heard this first movement with our Choreocosmos group, we will move to a small part of the music from this first movement of the Kreutzer Sonata with this quality of will, and then after we've done the movement, which lasts not more than about 2 minutes, then we will move to the words. So you'll hear the words of this first verse spoken, and then we move to the music again. And that completes our meditation on the first verse. Then comes our meditation on the second verse, and there we will hear the first movement of the Spring Sonata by Beethoven. Anne played this beautiful Spring Sonata here in Hacienda San Joaquin at a concert a few months ago at the home of Michael Burton, and have that very much in memory. And with the Spring Sonata, we have this quality of this rhythmic unfolding of the blessing of the power of spring or the power of nature, and that is what is addressed in the second verse of the Foundation Stone meditation, how we can expand our heart awareness to connect with the world around us, the world of nature, and beyond that with the whole cosmic realm. And then after we've had this meditation on the first movement of the Spring Sonata, leading us into this heart dimension, then our Choreocosmos group will stand and we'll move to part of the Spring Sonata, a small segment, and then we will move to the words of the meditation, and then after that we'll move again to this small segment of the music. So that completes our meditation on this for the second verse of the Foundation Stone meditation. What I'm describing actually is exactly what we did this past summer in Italy, working with it. There we were working with the live music, and now with the recorded music. Then we come to the third verse of the Foundation Stone meditation, which is directed to our thinking ability and how it's possible for our thinking to come into connection with angelic realms. And so here we will hear, as the music that will guide us into this elevation of our thinking, the first movement of Beethoven's violin concerto, which you will hear, it just leads up and up and up to incredible heights. So it's like this soaring of our thinking, the potential for our thinking, as we can see with Rudolf Steiner. His thinking ability led to extraordinary dimensions which he was able to describe consciously. And so that is the goal here, what Christ would wish for us in the future, is also that our thinking can become transformed and elevated to these higher realms of existence. So after we've entered into this mood of the first movement of the violin concerto, which we are taking as a meditation to enter into the deep and profound nature of our thinking ability as a potential, then again our Choreocosmos group will stand and we will move to a small segment of this music. Then we will move to the spoken word of the music, to the spoken word without the music, and then again we'll move to this small segment of the music. That will complete our meditation on the third verse of the Foundation Stone meditation. Then we come to the fourth verse, which, as I say, has this quality of a prayer. It is a prayer addressed to Christ, that he can work with us on these three levels, with his light of consciousness, love and warmth of Christ in our hearts, and the goodness of Christ in our will. And for this prayer-like mood, we will meditate on the second movement of the violin concert. And then when we've completed that meditation, then our Choreocosmos group will stand and we will move to a small segment of this music, and then we will hear the words, and then again we will move to a small segment of this music. And that completes our meditation on the fourth verse of the Foundation Stone meditation, and then we'll be seated again, and then will come the third movement of the violin concerto, and this is very joyous music, which is like a kind of summary, we could say, for the whole meditation on this Foundation Stone of Love. So I could say much more about this. There in Italy, we spent a whole week exploring this, and with these wonderful musicians. And so now we're trying to communicate something of this precious experience we had this past summer, this beautiful experience on the sacred dance of Choreocosmos, to this great meditation. And we hope that something can be transmitted. So we begin with our first meditation on the first movement from the Kreutzer Sonata. We just take this in and experience this quality of will pouring through this music.